Hey there, squirrels. I hope I'm not blowing your ears up, or that it's not so low that you have to put your ear right next to the speaker. Sorry about the squealing squirrel mail, that it was barely audible. I was playing around. Finally looked up and found something, but I'm not sure that's going to fix my live thing. See, it screwed up not only on when I was doing my live on YouTube yesterday and today, but when I went up on my good buddy Kelly's Crochet Adventures. It was squealing and squalling and it was blasting. It was horrible. It was embarrassing. So I got down from there, so I don't know if it's fixed or not, but I hope so. Because I've done a few tests and done some adjustments, and I'm going to be wasting some time if it's not right. And it is 11:55 p.m. I'm so excited though, y'all. One of our good buddies, one of our squirrels, I won't say who in case she wants to say it, but she won Bod's first Christmas in July giveaway. She said, "Do you know what the chances are?" I just happened to see it and I was like, "What?" So I had to tell her. And then somebody else got in touch with me and said, "Do you know how to get in touch with her?" I said, "I sure do. I already did. She's about to go into shock." So I'm so tickled for her. If I could dance, I would. I did sort of a little jig, as much as one can do a jig with the feet I've got. But the Lord is doing wonders with making me drink my water. I got to have tea right now. And it's actually in here, right there. But I have been drinking water. And the Lord's water is working wonders. And just praying. And y'all praying. Alright, chapter 3 of What Mrs McGillicuddy Saw. Less serious? Fiddlesticks, said Mrs. McGillicuddy. It was murder. She looked defiantly at this print. Is teeny. And y'all know I'm blind. Cannot wait to get to the eye doctor. She looked defiantly at Miss Marple, and Miss Marple looked back at her. "Go on, Jane," said Mrs. McGillicuddy. "Say it was all a mistake. Say I imagined the whole thing. That's what you think now, isn't it?" "Anyone could be mistaken," Miss Marple pointed out gently. "Anybody, Elspeth, even you. I think we must bear that in mind, but I still think you know that you were most probably not mistaken. You use glasses for reading, but you've got very good farsight, and what you saw impressed you very powerfully. You were definitely suffering from shock when you arrived here. It's a thing I shall never forget," said Mrs. McGillicuddy with a shudder. "The trouble is, I don't see what I can do about it." "I don't think," said Miss Marple thoughtfully, "that there's anything more you can do about it." And in parentheses, if Mrs. McGillicuddy had been alert to the tone of her friend's voice, she might have noticed a very faint stress laid on the "you." "You've reported what you saw to the railway people and to the police. No, there's nothing more you can do." "That's a relief in a way," said Mrs. McGillicuddy, "because, as you know, I'm going out to, I should know how to say this, Ceylon. Ceylon. Immediately after Christmas to stay with Roderick, and I certainly do not want to put that visit off. I've been looking forward to it so much, though of course I would put it off if I thought it was my duty," she added conscientiously. "I'm sure you would, Elspeth, but as I say, I consider you've done everything you possibly could do." It's up to the police, said Mrs. McGillicuddy, and if the police choose to be stupid. Miss Marple shook her head decisively. Oh, no, she said, the police aren't stupid. And that makes it interesting, doesn't it? Mrs. McGillicuddy looked at her without comprehension, and Miss Marple reaffirmed her judgment of her friend as a woman of excellent principles and no imagination. One wants to know, said Miss Marple, what really happened. She was killed, yes, but who killed her and why, and what happened to her body? Where is it now? That's the business of the police to find out. Exactly, and they haven't found out. That means, doesn't it, that the man was clever, very clever. I can't imagine, you know, said Miss Marple, knitting her brows, how he disposed of it. You kill a woman in a fit of passion. It must have been unpremeditated. You'd never choose to kill a woman in such circumstances. Just a few minutes before running into a big station. No, it must have been a quarrel, jealousy, something of that kind. You strangle her, and there you are, as I say, with a dead body on your hands, and on the point of running into a station. What could you do except, as I said at first, prop the body up in a corner as though sleeping, hiding the face, and then yourself leave the train as quickly as possible? I don't see any other possibility, and yet there must have been one. Miss Marple lost herself in thought. Mrs. McGillicuddy spoke to her twice before Miss Marple answered. You're getting deaf, Jane. Just a little, perhaps. People do not seem to me to enunciate their words as clearly as they used to. But it wasn't that I didn't hear you. I'm afraid I wasn't paying attention. I just asked about the trains to London tomorrow. Would the afternoon be all right? I'm going to Margaret's, and she isn't expecting me before tea time. I wonder, Elspeth, if you would mind going up by the 12:15. We could have an early lunch. Of course, and Miss Marple went on, drowning her friend's words. And I wonder, too, if Margaret would mind if you didn't arrive for tea, if you arrived about 7, perhaps? Mrs. McGillicuddy looked at her friend curiously. What's on your mind, Jane? I suggest, Elspeth, that I should arrive up to London with you, and that we should travel down again as far as Brackhampton, in the train you traveled by the other day. You would then return to London from Brackhampton, and I would come on here as you did. I, of course, would pay the fares. Miss Marple stressed this point firmly. Mrs. McGillicuddy ignored the financial aspect. What on earth do you expect, Jane? She asked. Another murder? Certainly not, said Miss Marple, shocked, but I confess I should like to see for myself. Under your guidance, wait a minute. Under your guidance, really, it is most difficult to find the correct term, the terrain of the crime. So accordingly, on the following day, Miss Marple and Mrs. McGillicuddy found themselves in two opposite corners of a first-class carriage, speeding out of London by the 4:54 from Paddington. Paddington had been even more crowded than on the preceding Friday, as there were now only 2 days to go before Christmas, but the 4:54 was comparatively peaceful, at any rate in the rear portion. On this occasion no train drew level with them, or they with another train. At intervals, trains flashed past them toward London. On two occasions, on two occasions trains flashed past them the other way, going at a high speed. At intervals, Mrs. McGillicuddy consulted her watch doubtfully. It's hard to tell you just when. We'd passed through a station, I know, but they were continually passing through stations. We're due in Brackhampton in 5 minutes, said Miss Marple. Oh, let me see if I've got some reading glasses. I guess I do. These glasses just are not getting it anymore. Oh, yeah, much better. Aren't these cool? Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree. Problem is I can't see out there. Let's see, where did I go? Just need cleaning though. And of course I have no cleaning cloth in here. Or do I? I have my fancy handkerchief. You put all kinds of stuff in these drawers. This is actually a sofa table. I think I've told y'all. My kids did great. They got this way cool chair and this sofa table, which is my desk now. And it's just got one big drawer in the middle, but man, it's a really big desk. And heavy. Heavy. All this is starting to look like what my den looks like on either side of my recliner. Okay, let's see. We're due in Brackhampton in 5 minutes, said Miss Marple. A ticket collector appeared in the doorway. Miss Marple raised her eyes interrogatively. Like you're going to interrogate somebody. Interrogatively. Mrs. McGillicuddy shook her head. It was not the same ticket collector. He clipped their tickets and passed on, staggering just a little as the train swung round a long curve. It slackened speed as it did so. I expect we're coming into Brackhampton, said Mrs. McGillicuddy. We're getting into the outskirts, I think, said Miss Marple. There were lights flashing past outside buildings, and occasional glimpse of streets and trams. Their speed slackened further. They began crossing points. We'll be there in a minute, said Mrs. McGillicuddy, and I can't really see this journey has been any good at all. Has it suggested anything to you, Jane? I'm afraid not, said Miss Marple in a rather doubtful voice. A sad waste of good money, said Mrs. McGillicuddy, but with less disapproval than she would have used had she been paying for herself. Miss Marple had been quite adamant on that point. All the same, said Miss Marple, one likes to see with one's own eyes where a thing happened. This train's just a few minutes late. Was yours on time on Friday? I think so. I didn't really notice. The train drew slowly into the busy length of Brackhampton station. The loudspeaker announced hoarsely. Doors opened and shut. People got in and out, milled up and down the platform. It was a busy, crowded scene. Easy, thought Miss Marple, for a murderer to merge into that crowd, to leave the station in the midst of that pressing mass of people, or even to select another carriage and go on in the train to wherever its ultimate destination might be. Easy to be one male passenger among many, but not so easy to make a body vanish into thin air. That body must be somewhere. Mrs. McGillicuddy had descended. She spoke now from the platform through the open window. Now, take care of yourself, Jane, she said. Don't catch a chill. It's a nasty, treacherous time of year, and you're not so young as you were. I know, said Miss Marple. And don't let's worry ourselves any more over all this. We've done what we could. Miss Marple nodded and said, Don't stand about in the cold, Elspeth, or you'll be the one to catch a chill. Go and get yourself a good hot cup of tea in the refreshment room. You've got time. 12 minutes before your train back to town. I think perhaps I will. Goodbye, Jane. Goodbye, Elspeth. A happy Christmas to you. I hope you find Margaret well. Enjoy yourself in Ceylon. And give my love to dear Roderick if he remembers me at all, which I doubt. Of course he remembers you very well. You helped him in some way when he was at school, something to do with money that was disappearing from a locker. He's never forgotten it. Oh, that, said Miss Marple. Mrs. McGillicuddy turned away. A whistle blew. The train began to move. Miss Marple watched the sturdy, thick-set body of her friend recede. Elspeth could go to Ceylon with a clear conscience. She had done her duty and was freed from further obligation. Miss Marple did not lean back as the train gathered speed. Instead, she sat upright and devoted herself seriously to thought. Though in speech Miss Marple was woolly and diffuse, in mind she was clear and sharp. She had a problem to solve, the problems of her own future conduct, and perhaps strangely, it presented itself to her as it had to Mrs. McGillicuddy as a question of duty. Mrs. McGillicuddy had said that they had both done all they could do. It was true of Mrs. McGillicuddy, but about herself Miss Marple did not feel so sure. It was a question sometimes of using one's special gifts, but perhaps that was conceded. After all, what could she do? Her friend's words came back to her. You're not so young as you were. Dispassionately, like a general planning a campaign or an accountant assessing a business, Miss Marple weighed up and set down in her mind the facts for and against further enterprise. On the credit side were the following. Number 1, my long experience of life and human nature. Number 2, Sir Henry Clithering and his nephew was now at Scotland Yard, I believe, who was so very nice in the little Paddock's case. Number 3, my nephew Raymond's second boy David, who is, I'm almost sure, in British Railways. Number 4, Griselda's boy Leonard, who is so very knowledgeable about maps. Miss Marple reviewed these assets and approved them. They were all very necessary to reinforce the weaknesses on the debit side, in particular her own bodily weakness. It's not, thought Miss Marple, as though I could go there and everywhere, making inquiries and finding out things. Yes, that... I can't read these either. I'll pray for my eyes. I don't want to be going blind. Yes, that was the chief objection, her own age and weakness. Although for her age her health was good, yet she was old, and if Dr. Haydock had strictly forbidden her to do practical gardening, he would hardly approve of her starting out to track down a murderer for that in effect. It was heretofore murder had, so to speak, been forced upon her. In this case, it would be that she herself set out deliberately to seek it, and she was not sure that she wanted to do so. She was old and tired. She felt at this moment, at the end of a tiring day, a great reluctance to enter upon any project at all. She wanted nothing at all but to reach home and sit by the fire with a nice tray of supper. I'm so sorry, y'all. The lines are just going together. It's awful. Nice tray of supper and go to bed and potter about the next day, just snipping off a few things in the garden, tidying up in a very mild way, without stooping, without exerting yourself. I'm too old for any more adventures, said Miss Marple to herself, watching absently out the window the curving line of the embankment, a curve. Very faintly something stirred in her mind. Just after the ticket collector had clipped the tickets, it suggested an idea, only an idea, an entirely different idea. A little pink flush came into Miss Marple's face. Suddenly she did not feel tired at all. I'll write to David tomorrow morning, she said to herself, and at the same time another valuable asset flashed through her mind. Of course, my faithful Florence. And that was part 1 of chapter 3. Now we're on part 2, if I can get through it. Not really sleepy, it's just there's a part 3. Y'all, I think I'm gonna have to stop there, because I'm struggling. Can't wait to check my eyes. I think I'm gonna go to the chiropractor because I've been having horrible neck pain from this. I love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. See you soon. Bye-bye.